Very good afternoon, and thanks for clicking on to the Friday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Hope everybody is safe and well wherever you are. Are you busy out Christmas shopping? Certainly it is a very unsettled upcoming weekend to come. We've got quite stormy conditions actually expected to move through during the course of Saturday. Then we have a cold shot that comes in behind that. We are going to see snow even to relatively low levels across northern areas. But unfortunately, if you're hoping for a white Christmas, you're going to be sorely disappointed. We've got what could be a very mild, if not one of the mildest Christmases on record for the UK as high pressure shifts to the east. We've got a southerly or southwesterly airflow that is going to bring some very mild temperatures during the overnight, double digits above freezing as we go from Christmas Eve into Christmas Day itself. So, it's another year, unfortunately, where we're somewhat disappointed with regards to a snowy prospect. This is the latest visible satellite imagery. We've got another frontal system that has been crossing the country through the course of today. We've got some clear air behind. Then we've got this mass of cloud lurking to the west over the Atlantic. That is what will become that storm system as we progress through the course of Saturday. If we look at the latest radar imagery here, this is how the precipitation situation is looking like over the UK. So there's that frontal system now moving across to the southeast of the country. Wet conditions here. It was wet earlier further north. Now we've just got some showers blowing in on a westerly airflow. Looking at the current temperatures, by the way, a couple of days ago we had probably close to minus 40 in a couple of spots across far northern Europe here. There was a minus 38.1 in far northern Sweden. Wouldn't be surprised if there was a local minus 40. This was back on the 18th of December. A lot less cold, if you notice, across northern Scandinavia at the time of recording, which is mid-afternoon this Friday. Looking at Europe as a whole, it's fairly mild across the board, as can be seen here. And then if we look at the UK specifically, you can see that we've got temperatures reasonably mild out there. Nothing cold for the 20th of December here. Upper single figures quite widely. Got a few double digits down across the far south of both UK as well as Ireland. Looking at the latest of the GFS model. So there's that frontal system moving eastwards. There's the developing feature here, by the way, just to the south of Greenland. That is that exited in Newfoundland early this morning and is now ripping across the Atlantic and will be affecting our shores by the time we reach the first half of tomorrow. It looks as if the GFS has the pressure dropping to 958 millibars. Generally, the centre looks as if it's over Shetland. And it's on the southern flank that we've got the strongest winds, 75 to 85 miles per hour, and exposure across the far northwest. Then we've got a widespread 65, 75 across central Highland. Then probably 50 to 60 mile an hour through the central belt. With some exposure, we could see 70 mile an hour gusts over high parts of the central belt and southern uplands, including the North Pennines as well. Parts of far northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland may see 70 mile per hour gusts as well, likely in the kind of 45 to 55 mile per hour range, I think, for these areas further south. But it's really the core of that southern flank that we're concerned about, those very powerful winds. So the GFS model indicates that we've got pressure down to 958. Big contrast, if you notice, between the 1041 high between the Azores and Iberia versus that 958 millibar low just to the north of the UK. And as can be seen here of the 850s, we'll look at the other models with regards to how deep this low will be. You can see that we're drafting in some colder air on the backside. So that's reasonably cold air, and that is going to drop some snow across parts of the UK as we progress through the course of Sunday and into Monday in particular. But look at this here as we start to push towards the Monday time frame. So this is a couple of days before Christmas. We're in cold air, but unfortunately the telltale signs are there to be seen. We've got that area of high pressure that kind of starts to build into the UK. That's going to then push the cold east, and we're going to drag in some fairly mild conditions here. Look at this here, southwesterly winds as we move through the course of Christmas Day itself. And then we flirt with something cold, but notice it stays generally to the north of the UK all the way out to the New Year period. It looks like here we've got something colder. I say the New Year period. In the run-up to the New Year, we'll see something a little bit colder according to GFS. Let's look at the ECMWF output, the latest anyway, and see what it's showing with regards to this deep area of low pressure. So the frontal system bringing the rain and a spell of wind during the course of today. Then as we play it through, you can see here that the ECM pretty much the exact same as the GFS, 958 millibars, just to the north of Shetland. Again, that gradient 958 versus 1041 high. So the models are pretty much almost identical in terms of the outcome over the next 24-36 hours. Then as we progress through into the early hours of Sunday, still very strong northwesterly winds, by the way, severe gales and exposure, gales widespread, and heavy snowfall associated with this area of low pressure. And we've got that northwesterly airflow dragging in some pretty cold air on the backside here. But again, very transient in nature. This is the 850s. A little bit less cold, if you could argue, of the ECM. We've got a slight tongue of -5 to -10. And then again, like the GFS, we've got that milder air getting lifted north. And with the southwesterly winds, by the way, crossing over the hills, Fern effect, could see some... I wouldn't be surprised if we see some local records in terms of minimum temperatures to start Christmas Day associated with this overall synoptic pattern. Let's have a look and see the expected situation of the Met Office model here. So this is of the weather outlook, and play through, and you can see here that frontal system clearing through. And then as we progress into Saturday, the main cold front moves through, wind and a squally heavy rainfall. And then it's really as that the core of low pressure then passes just to the north, makes its closest approach. We've got the strongest winds associated with this feature, and then we drag in that colder air, and we've got some fairly heavy snow showers, especially elevations above 200-250 meters, and we may see some snow lying to fairly low levels across northern portions of the country. Then it's fairly quiet. We've got a frontal system that moves through during the course of the Monday the 23rd, and then I think it's fairly dry as we step into Christmas Day itself, with high pressure largely in control. Looking at the peak wind gusts expected according to the Met Office model, and you can see here, let's just remove this advert, and see here, we'll play through some fairly brisk conditions out there during the course of Friday, but it's really as we step into the early hours of Saturday, we're starting to see those very strong winds developing. Very large waves, by the way. We could see in excess of 40, even 50 feet offshore associated with this area of low pressure, as we'll start to generate 75, 85 mile per hour winds. And then the model indicates that we're starting to see those 90 plus mile per hour gusts, even 100 mile per hour gusts, just maybe offshore, those strongest winds actually. But it looks as if the strongest gusts, according to the Met Office model, around about the 89 to 90 mile per hour range, right along the butt of Lewis. That's the very, very top of Lewis and Harris. Then around the Cape Wrath area, we're seeing this consistency in the models indicating that we've got around 90 mile per hour gusts associated with this. Now, winds are probably a lot less once you get inland further south here. You notice here that the very strongest winds are in the most exposed areas. You're still talking probably 75, 80 mile per hour winds, slightly inland, anywhere where there's exposure, some high ground, for example, where you get the minimal friction from the land. We're likely to be seeing very, very significant wind gusts indeed. But the reasons why this system has probably not been named is this is a part of the world that is more used to seeing severe storms as opposed to the far south of the UK. I think that's one of the reasons for that. We've got less people the further north you go, especially north of the Central Belt, for example, and therefore that is probably the reasons why they've not put a name on this. Yes, we're going to see 75, 85, possibly a gust in exposure of 90 miles per hour, but the reasons for that is, I think you could argue that there's more people out and about doing Christmas shopping, getting prepared, family members even traveling also to see loved ones. And I think you could argue that perhaps a name could have been thrown under this given the time of the year. But generally speaking, I think that's the reasons behind the Met Office not naming this system. There is still time yet, I suppose, but the latest output is showing still around about the 90 mile per hour gust range as we move through the period. And in terms of sea heights, you can see that this is in feet. And once you start to surpass these kind of reddy colours here, we're talking generally in excess of 40 feet. Would not be surprised if some of these boys out in the open Atlantic here record wave heights in excess of 50 feet. It wouldn't be surprising at all, given the strength of this system and how strong these winds are at the sea surface. So yes, we've got a very, very mild setup coming up after the cold spell. Let's have a quick look and see off the Met Office model what the snow depth is looking like in terms of the next, once this system moves through. So you can see here that back to the here and now, you can see here that we've still got a little bit of snow on the ground. I know Lee at Highland Weather took some images from Carbridge this morning, and there's still a little snow on the ground. There was more snow back 24 hours previous, but you can see here that we dissipate the snow through the course of today, Friday, with mild temperatures in place. Then as that feature then moves through, it's once that core and the cold front essentially passes through during the course of tomorrow, we're seeing the colder air digging in behind, and then we're going to start to lay down a reasonable snow cover, especially over Central Highland. Some of the southern uplands and North Pennine is going to be picking up snow, even parts of Ireland and Northern Ireland, especially over higher ground, picking up snow, some snow on the backside. But notice here how quickly the snow disappears in the run up to Christmas, thanks to that milder air coming in from the southwest. We're going to have more on this in tomorrow's European Outlook, so stay tuned for that. Like and subscribe. I do greatly appreciate everybody's support, and stay safe out there. Bye for now.